Alexa, what time is it?
Time to get the heat fixed, David. I'm freezing.
What?
I'm cold. Call HVAC services.
It's not that cold. Plus, you're not even a human.
They do heating and cooling 24 hours a day on any brand, anytime. Plus, do you know who wakes you up in the morning?
You do, Alexa?
Enjoy me keeping your shopping lists?
Yeah?
Then call HVAC services at 270-651-3841 before I cancel all your appointments.
Well, I did grow up in Barron County, was born at the T.J. Sampson Community Hospital, and I have lived here most of my life, other than when I was in school and at college. I grew up on a farm east of Glasgow. In fact, it's the house that's right across from Eastern Elementary School, which was not there until I was in high school. So therefore, I never did get to go there. But I grew up there and then attended a one-room school called Farr Seminary and attended it through 6th grade, then went to the high school and graduated there in 1966. I then went to school at Western and then got married in 1969 and started my first public job, full-time job, at the Glasgow Daily Times.
And the unique perspective she had growing up in the 1960s in Barron County provided its own uniqueness.
1960s was different because, okay, we all remember that girls didn't wear pants to school. You wore dresses, skirts and sweaters, or whatever. The only time that you wore pants was when it was so cold that you wore pants underneath your dresses or so forth. So that was definitely different. Nobody would even think anything about that. Riding the bus. Most everybody did ride the bus. I mean, very few people, maybe seniors had cars or whatever, but you went, parents didn't take you, drop you off. You got on the bus. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, I lived at close to Eastern Elementary, which is in the middle between Temple Hill and Hiceville. Could have went to either one. But I got on the bus, usually was one of the first ones to get on the bus, and rode the bus for about an hour and a half before I got to school. And memories like that, who you rode the bus with, was, that was your Facebook and your social media back then, was basically on that.
And though the 1960s brought Gayle a high school diploma, and the 1960s brought Gayle her first full-time job, the 1960s also brought Gayle the man who she'd soon fall in love with.
That's when I basically met Danny Berry. He was in the same grade as I was at Hiceville, and we were both in Mr. Lawrence H. Gilley's room. And, I mean, we knew each other at 7th grade, 8th grade. I guess it was probably my 16th birthday. Apparently, we'd sort of talked, and I had invited him to come to my 16th birthday, but anyway, he didn't. He had football practice and didn't make it or whatever. So we went out maybe once or twice in high school, and I dated his good friend. He dated my good friend. So we were together a lot, but, really weren't dating each other. So I was in college, and he got drafted and was in the Army in 1966. In 1967, he was home. He had been in Pennsylvania and was home on leave, and I think it was a Saturday night or whatever. And I get a phone call. Of course, that was home phones. You didn't have cell phones then or whatever. And he said, "This is Danny." And the joke is, I said, "Danny who?" And anyway, he proceeded to tell me who he was and asked me out that night. So we went out, and then to come to find out, and I'm not sure when I found this out later, and he'd probably kill me for saying this, but anyway, he had called a couple of others, and they weren't home and already had dates, so I was third on the list. But anyway, we started dating, I guess, in 67, and got engaged in August of 1968. and got married Valentine's Day, 1969.
It was at the turn of the century that Gayle took a job at the Museum of the Barrens, now known as the South Central Kentucky Cultural Center. She served as the director until 2014. And a product of Gayle's handiwork was the Archive segment, which now airs on WCLU radio every morning.
So every once in a while I would be up here looking up something, and I'd find something really, really neat. And so anyway, I just write it down. So that's what I went to Henry and I said, what if we did what happened on this day in such and such? And he said, well, that sounds sort of neat. So in 2003, we started doing that. Now, we didn't do 100 years worth at the beginning, because that would have taken me forever. But I mean, I just sort of pick, certain decades and give to him or whatever. So that started, and he started reading those. And I did it in a condensed form, sort of. And the main reason I did it in a condensed form, because if somebody wanted to know the rest of the story, that gave them the idea that they needed to come down here and go through the newspapers. So that was basically what I was doing it for.
So many moments in Gayle's life have been surrounded by good people and good times. But there's been a few moments where some scenarios are unfortunate, but they've been lessons nonetheless.
My husband had lung cancer in 2002. And I think I'll look back on that and realize how precious life is, and especially thinking about today with COVID and all the people that are fighting for their lives right now. I mean, it's before I left here this afternoon, I got a message, please keep such and such in prayer. And I mean, it's sad, and your life can be taken away. And he was in the hospital for like a month. And after surgery, because he went into pneumonia and ICU and stayed in there for a month. And then he ended up with cancer 2 years later, but has been cancer-free since 2004. So therefore, we're blessed. So I think I learned that lesson that, life can change just really in a heartbeat. You just don't know, and you don't need to take it for granted. And you sort of need, if you think about someone and you think, I need to tell them what they meant to me, do it. I mean, don't wait. Don't say, well, I'll see them later on or whatever. Just send them a note or call them up or whatever and say, hey, you made a difference. I appreciate you.
And you may ask how 52 years of marriage works. Well, Gayle says it takes a lot of patience, and there's one particular lesson.
Well, I think basically you sort of learn sometimes to keep your mouth shut. I think that's the one thing. You want to say something and you want to say it real quick, but you need to think before you say. And I mean, we've had our ups and downs, and like I say, it's not always been easy, but then we have persevered and we have lasted, and hopefully we'll have many more years together.
This is Gayle Bunch Berry. And this has been Meet My Neighbor.